Welcome to another episode of the Coffee Conversation Show powered by the Emerging India Forum TIF and our tech partner Prime Infotech Solution. Series is The Emerging Lawyer, theme is From Law School to Leading Law Firm. We have with us Karthik Jayakumar, co-founder partner of Peritum Partners, a distinguished law practice based in Chennai. His career spans over a decade of expertise in corporate law, venture capital, startup advisory, making him a prominent figure in India's legal ecosystem. From his foundational role in creating the A38 Journal of International Law to leading high stakes mergers and acquisitions, Karthik combines sharp legal acumen with an entrepreneurial spirit. So, welcome Karthik to today's Coffee Conversation episode.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Amir. Pleasure to be.
Yeah, so it's a small world, as you said, kept by one of our common friend who we have already done coffee, and there's now one more link. So now what we do is, after your coffee speaker, you don't remain a coffee speaker. You become part of the coffee tribe community.
Right.
So
Lovely.
there are a lot of actions which team will be sharing, and as I said, that panel discussion. So I'll be doing a panel discussion. We'll share the topic later on, because startup advisory is one of interesting topics which we want to do. So we'll connect. So I just want to explain you the format. There are three rounds. You're aware of the two rounds. The
Mhm.
third round is a surprise rapid fire round.
Oh, okay.
For that, you have to be witty, funny, quick, and you get to win this book, your Christmas gift,
Sure.
uh, autographed and delivered to you.
Yes.
So yeah. So friends, I'm Lion Amir Virani, host of Coffee Conversation and a legal tech evangelist at Prime Infotech Solution, author of 15 books. So Karthik, my first question: what inspired you to co-found Peritum Partners, and how has the journey as a founding partner shaped your legal career? And what's the story behind this unique name of Peritum?
Sure. That's a question that I've probably been asked a few times in the past. Um, Really, just before the pandemic hit us, I'd actually left my earlier role at HSB Partners, worked with another firm called Essential Legal here in Chennai for a brief 2.5 months. And really felt like India was at a place where the whole startup scene was about to explode. And at that point, I felt I've always had the entrepreneurial zeal, but just not the ability and the technical capability before 2019 to have been able to do something. So that's when I realized there's no firm that was born out of Chennai that does something of this nature and can probably transcend and grow into other cities and maybe even into other geographies. So that's really where it started from. I frankly only thought it would begin kind of trying to support the smaller businesses. And it just kind of organically grew into working with my co-founding partner, Durga. It was just obvious cross-sell in terms of what I don't do, she does, and whatever she doesn't do, I do. And it just went along that way where we found a lot more partners over a period of time, expanding the offerings. And I honestly, people think that partners have everything sorted. People think a founding partner should have absolutely everything sorted. But the honest reality of it is every single day has been a different challenge. Each day is a learning. Each time you solve a problem, a new problem shows up, and you feel like the previous one was simpler. That's really the truth of it. And I feel like problem solving has become something that we're better equipped to deal with. I feel like it has also taught me the business side to a law firm. You're generally distanced from that as a practicing individual advocate or an individual lawyer. You never really look at it as a business in itself. It's always talked of as a noble profession. But I think the moment you run it like a firm, you run it just like a startup, at least in the early days.
That's interesting. Now this naming,
Oh
how
no,
this name?
absolutely. So this was a conversation I actually had with my co-founding partner Durga. We were thinking back then of a name that should transcend the borders of India. Really not something that would just be an Indian name that people may struggle to understand beyond the boundaries of India. So then we thought of, okay, you know what, where does the law kind of derive a lot of its fundamentals? We go back to legal maxims, which are based in Latin. So this is a Latin word which basically means an expert, which is what we strive to work towards being. And that's really the origin of the term.
Wow, interesting name. So, like sometime back, I had done coffee with one of a partner of Bergen Law.
Mhm. Yep.
That is come from a French word, and it means to rapid growth. So I'm seeing a lot of law firms,
Mhm.
you people are coming up with unique names and getting inspiration from the world. I mean, the naming part and significance of this naming has got a story and all those things. So that's very beautiful. Okay, law firms have also coming up with a brainstorming which names to come up and which resonates with the company, what do you say, mission, vision, everything. That's very interesting. So let's continue the conversation. Your expertise spans corporate transaction and advisory. How do you approach complex mergers and joint ventures in today's competitive legal landscape?
Absolutely. I think I can't stress enough on this piece of how um, the world is constantly evolving, while the law, for some in some zones, has been stagnant, but we are seeing the legal framework in India also growing really, really quickly. Um, while maybe the first principles are really attributable to the earlier organizations that I've worked at over a period of time, that has really shaped my fundamentals in terms of understanding how you go about uh, putting the basics in place. But it's equally important to continually keep yourself educated, keep revisiting the rule book, keep looking at what the law reads as today, never to have that ego about us that we know everything. I've always realized that when we go back to the law and read it again in a new context of facts, it always looks different again. That's the beauty of the fact that every word can be interpreted differently. Um, then again, it doesn't stop just with kind of resetting to the fundamentals. A lot of this is also shaped heavily by learning, by observing. Oftentimes people get caught up in a process of a negotiation, in only proving their point, but I've really realized over a period of time that you also get to occupy such a beautiful position of witnessing a very different style of negotiation when someone else is on the other side of the table, and you always have so much to learn from how beautifully they put a point across that might come across as heavily not favoring you in that scenario, but you can very easily be in that very scenario in another room. And it's just about utilizing that and absorbing that, taking the positives of how someone else has driven home a point. And of course, just like precedent works in the law, treat that as something to inspire yourself to grow a little more. I think that one fundamental, that knowledge is power, but also knowing that fundamental that uh, you do not know enough. It's always important to learn from everyone, from every little thing that happens. I think that's broadly our mechanism to really look at approaching complex situations. Uh, and the last bit, which is always playing around with the words. That's as simple as any lawyer would say.
Wow, beautiful. Okay, so my next question. You have had a dynamic career working with startups and venture capital. So, what's your advice for startups navigating legal challenges?
Sure. Again, this is not necessarily a one size fits all for the simple reason that maybe in the early days of when the Startup India scheme came into being, people maybe thought of only a certain sector of businesses were really to be considered as startups. But if you really look at today's world, it's really transcended sectors. You'd see businesses in the defense space. You'd see businesses in the Web3, the blockchain, the crypto. You see all sorts of sectors today. I think the most critical aspect of it is really not turning to legal and compliance on a reactive measure. It's always better to be proactive. I think we've always known that one fundamental, which we've learned even as a kid, that prevention is better than cure. It's the same fundamental even with the law. You put in that effort, it is not an expensive affair at all. Sometimes being penny wise and pound foolish in skimping on compliance can come back to bite you in a lot more of an expensive and, of course, stressful as a mechanism at a later point. That's the one fundamental, maybe as a trend I've seen across startups where they skimp on that process of compliance. That's not a healthy thing. It's better to be compliant than to be reactive to it.
Yeah. Okay, my next question. What is your take on the future of corporate law in India, especially with the rise of digital transactions and startups?
Absolutely. I'd probably rephrase the answer to this. I mean, when I heard the question, I had an initial thought, but look at how the world is playing out today. We've got artificial intelligence, we've got the likes of ChatGPT, Perplexity, and whatnot, several other brands that are picking up in terms of what they can offer. And people who think that this can entirely replace the legal fraternity are not entirely wrong. But the ones that kind of embrace this wave of tech, I feel, can actually shape the future of corporate law in India significantly better. Now, every single business that exists today uh, has a similar structure. They're either a private limited or an LLP or a partnership or a sole proprietorship. The law is the same to absolutely everybody. But the advent of new tech is also going to require us to rethink how we've approached corporate law and various other aspects of the law in general. Now, when you have digital transactions, you've got the whole blockchain world, you've got the whole Web3 world, you've got so many different aspects to this, which probably don't even have a name today, which are new bits of tech that are coming into play. It's for us to also give back to shaping the policy. Now, we can't afford to have another lag in the way the law functions. For a good 150 years, we functioned with the Contract Act the way it is today. We had a whole almost 60 years that we functioned with the Companies Act from 1956 to 2013. We can't afford to let this continue. We've got to consistently keep evolving and forcing the regulators to also keep updating the law as the playing field keeps evolving. I think that's on us as a community to keep giving back to also incentivizing the regulator in a form. By saying incentivizing, it's just about taking them along with us. That's the process of what I feel lagged for a little time. Uh, I think the beauty of this in terms of the startup world, which was also a part of the question, I feel they're doing something incredibly well with the startup India, as well as you've got multiple states which are also doing this. I feel they have found a way to really be ahead of the curve, kind of trying to preemptively educate the startup community, the founder community, but at the same time, the sophistication that the investment world carries ought to also transcend to the startup side of things. So I think that's an initiative which is genuinely doing well. But I think that onus is equally on us as the lawyers to kind of educate.
Yeah, very true, very true. So I'll be having questions for continuous learning. So I'm just
Mhm.
framing the flow.
Yes.
Uh, what role does negotiation play in your practice? And can you share a memorable instance where your negotiation skills made a difference?
No, 100%. Negotiation is probably pretty much the backbone of everything I do in relation to venture capital or private equity or mergers and acquisitions. At the end of the day, maybe to break it down, think of it as it's a union between someone who is either receiving capital or is parting with ownership. Now, in that scenario, there's a lot of friction that comes through that process because there's a give and take in terms of the rights, there's a give and take in terms of the right price, there's commercials to the process. And therefore, negotiation as a skill is about reading the room, it's about reading the ask that comes from an investor or an acquirer, identifying what can we really give up and what do I gain in the bargain. So that it's really a win-win scenario rather than a win-lose. um, we've seen a lot of scenarios, I think, over the years where maybe my negotiation skills have come in handy. But probably the best that we've really seen is about um, understanding that the moment we set the tone that we're not actually negotiating against each other, but trying to find a solution, thinking on the same side. I feel this is something which has become a trend in terms of the way I've been approaching negotiations in the recent past. This is something which I really picked up maybe about 6, 7 months back, looking at another negotiator. And I feel that we've actually had some complex transactions where had I approached this a little differently, it would have been a lose-lose sort of a scenario. Where maybe one of the scenarios of where this kind of panned out, of course, without names, has resulted in a scenario where there were some rights which got allowed to our client, while at the same time, it also unlocked a certain set of rights to the investors. This is something which, without looking at it as, hey, we're on the same team, had it been a bit more of a battle, I do not believe we would have landed at the same place.
Wow.
Hmm?
So now we go to your journey of your partnership. So can you share your past experience with firms like HSB Partners, SAM, prepared you for co-founding your own practice, Peritum Partners?
No, absolutely. I'm nothing but gratitude to the partners at HSB Partners, and this was actually Amarchand and Mangaldas before the split happened. Uh, Immense gratitude to them because they have really contributed in several ways to the fundamentals of what I have in place today. The very bare basics of what it takes to build a lawyer. I feel the legal education system today exposes you to what the law is, but it does not necessarily train you for what you do on the job. And that's a process which you get exposed to through internships. And frankly, I think the skill sets, maybe 80-90% of the skill sets of what I utilize on a daily basis has really been shaped by what has happened through my experiences at HSB or at Amarchand, and for that matter, even at Ascensio. Each of them have taught me a different perspective of it. I think it's about the fundamentals of how do you approach a problem, how do you research, how do you arrive at a solution in a way that also kind of bears in mind the commercial intent of the parties. This is something which I feel, had I not worked at organizations like these in the past, I probably would have learned at a much slower pace, maybe with trial and error, and maybe at the cost of what a client could really have secured for themselves otherwise. And this really has also taught me different perspectives of how partners have run their own practices, which in some ways, not necessarily only by learning from a place of what to do, has also probably taught me what to not do. It's always equally important to learn from others' mistakes as much as you would take away from the gains of what they have done right. Um, I'm not saying that I've witnessed too many mistakes, but it has really taught me over a period of time that this is the wisdom that I ought to take with me from that
Yeah.
process.
Beautiful, beautiful. So, Karthik, Parent Partners has gained significant recognition under your leadership. So, what strategies or philosophies drive your team's success?
Sure. I might probably sound just very cliched like most law firm partners do. But frankly, the way we've really approached the entirety of the system is to try and create something that's very different from the market. Um, we frankly genuinely care a lot about the future of each and every person that works with the firm. It's about giving to their goals. It's about identifying what is it that rocks their boat. What is it that they want to take from the process? Each person has their own 3 year, 5 year, 7 year goal. What is it that we can possibly do that's going to help speed that process up to take them towards that direction? And as a part of that process, I feel what we've also done each time we add someone to the team, it's about identifying like minded people so that our goals kind of align. It's been a very patient process of identifying people that fit right into the culture. Um, this I quote something I saw on a YouTube short video of what the Zerodha brothers were saying. Um, Skills are something that can be trained, but then a culture is something that either exists or doesn't. It's very hard to take someone and beat them into a culture. It takes a lot of effort, a lot of time to be able to do that. But we've been very patient about identifying the right people that fit right into that fold. This really is something we're trying to also transcend onto the other partners so that everyone they also add on to their team kind of fits right into the culture. The skill set, that's something that comes with time. But the culture piece of it, I think that's it's so important to maintain that, to kind of give to that goal set that people have. I feel that as each individual grows, the collective grows automatically.
Beautiful.
Hmm.
So, my next question, uh, how do you ensure continued learning and skill enhancement for yourself and your team at Peritum Partners?
That's a very underrated thing to do. Each person obviously takes the time to read quite a bit. That's a fundamental of our profession, but it doesn't stop there. We've kind of tried to make sure that we have a cross team system where I need to learn a little bit of the other practices that exist at the firm. I need to also work with the other partners at the firm, the other associates at the firm, constantly exposing myself as much as I can to other disciplines, to other practices, to kind of make me well rounded. When someone comes to us for advice, then they're not asking for something. Problems in life do not come only from a single dimension. It's always a 360-degree approach where we always have to look around to understand which side are they going to get hit from to kind of protect their interests. From this perspective, it's about a lot of upskilling, a lot of knowledge management sessions that we do have, internal stakeholders, external stakeholders, where we've got workshop-like sessions consistently, where it's about understanding that these are the updates to the law. There are newsletters that are also prepared for internal stakeholders, continuously picking up developments in the law, recent precedents, to ensure that everyone kind of reads to understand that this is how the law is evolving aside of our everyday experience. This upskilling, the moment it stops, is where our growth stops. So it doesn't stop just from a legal perspective. We also try and do this more from a tech side of things. Like I said, it's equally important for us to really embrace the tech and the fact that um, several sectors are continuously moving at paces way quicker than the law is moving. And if we embrace that and we learn to also benefit from it, it could easily make our life a lot simpler. That's broadly the zones of what we focus on.
Beautiful. Yes. Uh, yeah, law firms are investing for not only team learning, but also of clients learning, which I've been seeing in the coffee conversations. So they're taking both, like startups founders are gaining a lot, okay, by someone is mentoring them.
But
So uh, your team has a lot to play, not only working on their agreements, but also educating them on different aspects. So that is very wonderful. So they are in better hands. Wow, that's very impressive. So my next question: how has technology helped you, and which legal tech tool has impacted your work?
sure. This is a question. I probably have multiple answers to this, but frankly, um, I would only look at it from a positive perspective. If you ask this question to the other partners at the firm, some may have a negative aspect to it as well. Um, but frankly, I'm someone who's really a tech proponent. I absolutely have been fascinated by tech even before the internet hit us. And this is something which I feel can only improve our capability. In today's day and age, I mean, we've got ChatGPT, which is something which the firm greatly uses, tools like Perplexity, which aids research. But something that we've always told them, and which we follow as a fundamental, is always to trust but verify. Oftentimes you end up getting an answer which may not be the truth, but it's packaged like it's gospel. It's always important to verify to make sure that that's absolutely true. But a tool that's really been a game changer is in terms of a workflow management tool that we utilize today. Um, this is one which really helps give me visibility in terms of exactly what is on every single person's plate, understanding at what stage each piece of work is at. To me, what's very, very critical is to ensure that work-life balance is maintained. Now, this happens at two levels. One is in terms of work distribution, which is now each partner's responsibility as well as the middle management's responsibility. But then there's also the other side of it in terms of the efficiency of the actual work that the workforce carries. Now, if I don't distribute well, I can't expect for them to be able to execute well. So that's something which the tool has genuinely taken us a long, long way, which is a tool called ClickUp. It also has AI integrated into it. Funnily enough, they're a well-funded startup. I had to do a lot of research to actually identify the relevant tool. We've tried so many of them, believe me. It's been about 7, 8 months of making the whole firm use for a month. I do a trial on one tech tool and then make them move on to the next one till we landed on this one. And it has saved us several hours. It's tracking time, it's tracking the workflows, it's tracking distribution as well as gives me visibility. So there's really nothing better than that, which back in the day I probably needed maybe an executive assistant to help me keep an eye out on doing something like that.
Yeah, very true. Now, my last question for your professional journey round, your uh, this other venture, the A38 Journal of International Law. What is this venture all about, and what are the activities over there?
Sure. So this was something which my sister and I actually started when we were back in college. Um, about a good 10 years back, when I just about wrapped up college, we'd started this somewhere around 2011, 2012, at a point where she and I were very, very passionate about international law. Now, it's a beautiful world that we live in, but we do not have the equivalent of the parliament for the world. So this is a confluence of culture. This is a confluence of where several different legal systems kind of intermingle. And we need to have a mechanism of understanding how do you still not have chaos when the world is functioning in parallel. Now, this is where it was incredibly a zone that we were passionate about. Things like human rights, things like sovereignty, how do different countries transact with each other? How do they work with each other? Now, through this journey, we started realizing that the access to information, again, I'd probably like to quote Elon Musk in this zone, where he says, uh, information and education is something which ought to be free. If you literally look around you, you'll find that information for free. Now, that is something which I found was genuinely lacking with international law back then. My sister was my senior also in college by 4 years, and she was a little more deeply entrenched into the system by the time I was starting. And she'd already been through this grind in law school with something called as a moot court competition, which is think of it as a mock court session. Now, through that process, for us to be able to research on the law, you had to have access to paid databases. And now, as a student, we really didn't have that affordability, where some universities did provide that as a facility. And now I think a lot of universities do that. But back when we were students, access to that information was not really all that easily available. Now, the intent of A38 stands for Article 38, which was the sources of law under the International Court of Justice's statute. Now, that was the reason to create that, to kind of open source create access to information and just to give them the wealth of well-researched articles. So, where a lot of people writing information, articles, writing notes, it built a good network over a period of time, and that changed, honestly, the way I started looking at information. Information really is key. Like to the business world, they say data is king. To us as lawyers, information is equally king. So that was really the intent of distributing free knowledge.
Wow, that was very impressive thing. Which that experience of creating information and distribution, that's wonderful, which is helping you in at Peritum Partners. So now let's go to the next round, the personal journey round, and understand Karthik as a person. Tell us about your family and your formative years, Karthik.
Sure. Well, four of us. My dad's also a lawyer. I mean, he's now a senior counsel. He's a direct tax litigating lawyer, Mr. V.S. Jayakumar. I've got my mom, Kumunda. She's more on the wellness and the fitness side of things. And then I've got my sister as well. She's also a lawyer by education, but then her interest went in the direction of peace, conflict, international relations. Um, she does a lot of cool stuff. Uh, to me, these are all people that I've really looked up to. I've learned a lot from my dad in terms of the perspective of advocacy, a lot of skills in terms of what to do, what to not on the litigation side of things. Because the skill sets of what I've really picked up from my mom and sister are a different thing altogether. I think the kindness, the gentleness in terms of how you deal with people, a relationship first approach has really come from them. Um, and I mean, the formative years, very, very simple, nothing fancy really. A very average student. Schooling and everything happened in Chennai. I was born in Bangalore, absolutely love the city. Um, we've lived here, I think, because of my dad's practice. That's what really brought us over to Chennai. All of my education happened here. College as well was at the Tamil Nadu Dr. Ambedkar Law University at the School of Excellence. Uh, Pretty much my career has been in Chennai as well. I would say, though it's the city that adopted me, it's now a city that I would never want to leave. I'm just so used to it. Absolutely love the place.
Wow, beautiful.
Mhm.
Okay, let's go to your college days at Tamil Nadu Dr. Ambedkar Law University. Tell us
Mhm.
about your actions experience.
Absolutely. So this, to me, again, the fact that this was education happening in my hometown, rather adopted hometown, I would say was a matter of comfort. For me, college was really just about a kilometer away from home. That's really where, right within my comfort zone. Um, Beautiful faculty, kept my life very simple and easy. It was about 4 5 days a week that I would actively attend classes. I used to do a lot of moots back then, so I used to get exempt from classes quite often. That I feel really taught me my research skills over a period of time. Probably the only thing that I would probably want listeners to take from this that I didn't do through law school was I really didn't intern too much, so that didn't give me an insight into what the law career looked like. I had a very academic approach to the law, which if I could go back and redo, I would maybe do a little differently. I think that practical aspect to life would have maybe shaped my life a little differently. But it was a phenomenal 5 years, not one that I would have done any differently other than internships.
Hmm. Okay. So,
Mhm.
Karthik, how do you spend your time outside of work? Are there any hobbies, activities you are particularly passionate about?
Oh, absolutely. One of the things that I will never give up in life is the gaming side of me. I'm an avid computer gamer. That's something which has over the years also helped improve my network with people. Believe it or not, we spend a lot of time where we've got opposing counsel. We would have spent 2 3 hours fighting each other on a negotiation table, and then 2 3 hours later we're gaming with each other on the same team. A second piece which I absolutely enjoy is music. I play several instruments. That's something which has kind of helped me de-stress significantly over the years. And last but not the least is really sport. Used to play a lot of football and badminton, but now the new golf, which is pickleball, has really picked up. We actually do that as a firm activity now, and I also kind of do that on a regular basis with clients as well as an icebreaker.
Wow.
Mhm.
So you're playing multiple hats and
Yeah.
bringing innovation for ice-breaking activities, team building with clients. Wow. We're also doing at our firm, like we name it as Fun Fridays, Fun Saturdays, and do some uh, fun learning activities and link it with some learning which
Absolutely.
being derived from that game
Beautiful.
or activity. So
Mhm,
good, this pickle.
mhm,
I'll go through. And
mhm.
recently, I went for this training. I'm part of the Alliance. So
Wow.
there is a district level leadership training
Mhm.
where I got introduced to a couple of ice breaking activities. How
Right.
about uh, introducing
Mhm,
through common topics, then uh, playing a game with
Mhm.
non-verbal.
Wow,
I'll
beautiful.
share that is another topic which are there. I've got a bank of games and activities.
Lovely, really lovely.
So connect with me. I'll share those. Okay,
Of
let's
course.
continue.
Mhm.
Sorry. So, are there any books, movies, or music genres that have significantly impacted your outlook on life?
Absolutely. There's I can't stress enough on the number of movies that have shaped my life. I'm someone that's very movie passionate. I watch at least a couple movies a week. That's a mix of OTT and theaters. Um, this is something there was a recent movie which is called The Wild Robot. While it's animated, I feel that carried some significant life lessons about, I mean, one fundamental that I really took away from that was about how kindness is a choice. We can choose to add kindness to absolutely everything that we do in life. It's about, the moment you take that choice when you've fallen, you can choose to sit and cry, or you can choose to get up, or the kindness that you may have meted out to others in the past might actually have gotten you a hand there to pick you up. I really feel that a lot of movies like these, and there's another one, Inside Out, which talks about emotions. That's really really something which has taught me a great deal in life. Of course, in terms of books, I think I prefer reading a lot about people in general, biographies and autobiographies. A current read for me is this one called Open by Andrea Gassi. It just gives me a very different perspective of how people have approached life. Again, like I said, to me, life is all about learning from others' experiences, others' mistakes, and what they've done right. That's really shaped my approach on life as well.
Wow. Okay. Do you have a favorite travel destination and what's one memorable trip you have taken?
Sure. I actually do. It's a city called Bratislava. Now this is I actually chanced upon this place. It's in Europe. Um, the first ever time I had actually got into the geography of Austria. I was there for a moot again. Um, this is the Willem Sieves moot. It's a pretty prestigious one. Um, I decided I'd take a train, head over to a part of Germany that I've never seen. It was my first ever time to Europe. I decided I'd try and give this a go to see what travel looks like. And it was the first time I was traveling without family as well, just with a bunch of friends, my classmates from college. Um, they sent me to book the tickets. And the problem over there is they only understood German at the counter. And I'd actually paid for a bunch of us, for four of us, to try and get tickets to Prague. Um, we first tried Munich, but the train was booked. We tried Prague. I'd actually paid for the tickets for it to go to Prague, but then when we came back, we were on a train that took us to Bratislava, and there's the ticket guy who comes on the train checking for tickets, and he says, "Hey, you're actually on the wrong train, and this one's meant to go to Prague." Um, so I just said, "I'm sorry, I don't get the language," which is probably where I've made that mistake. We had to pay a fine because we were technically traveling without a ticket. But that took me to that new city. It's an incredibly tiny city. You can cover the whole place on foot in a few days. The weather there was phenomenal. It's one of the countries in Europe that has a more affordable standard of living. Uh, I literally had a seven-course meal there for all of an equivalent of about 450 Indian rupees.
Oh.
And it was literally a home cafe operated by a grandchild and her grandmother. Beautiful, beautiful memories. Would never trade that for anything else. 3 years later, I did go back to Bratislava again, but I took my parents with me because I wanted them to have the same experience. Um, but the funny part, I took them at the wrong time of the year, so it was just way too hot then. Uh, but that's a place I'd love to go back to again.
So you met that restaurant. Means
They
you
were
could
shut.
that
Can
same
you
restaurant was
imagine?
still there.
They were
The
shut,
grandmother and
unfortunately.
grandchild.
They were unfortunately shut then. Uh,
Oh,
I think it's my bad luck, but I hope when I go back again, I hope I find them again. I can still in my head remember the directions to there. So I truly hope I can. I can find the place again.
So that is the beauty of coffee conversation, which
Absolutely.
brings you, takes you a memory down lane, prepares you for your future. So many things happens. Okay. So Karthik, how do you celebrate personal milestones or achievements with your close ones?
Um, I'm probably not the best person to ask this question to. To me, I've kind of become this way over a period of time where, I just look at a loss and a win pretty much the same. Frankly, to me, a loss is more valuable than a win. The reason is it gives me an opportunity to learn a lot more. I've maybe the last time I celebrated a personal milestone was when I was maybe 25 on my birthday. But beyond that, to me, celebration is just being around people that I really care about and people that I really love. I prefer doing that on a daily basis. So from that perspective, you can probably say that I celebrate my everyday. Um,
Wow.
but to me, honestly, a celebration beyond that is perhaps at best a meal that I really, really enjoy.
Wow. Beautiful. So my last question, that is a googly one. Describe Karthik in one line.
Honestly, to me, I would say that's an enigma. I've really not understood myself yet. I've not found a person that also claims that they've understood me fully. Uh, the misunderstanding or the inability to understand, I think there lies the beauty of it. I don't have a better way to put that.
Wow, beautiful. So now let's have some fun. The rapid fire round.
Mhm.
Your favorite computer game?
One called Dota 2, Defense
Wow.
of the Ancients.
Okay. Your favorite musical instrument?
The guitar, for sure.
Okay. Uh, your favorite Netflix series?
Uh, does it have to be just Netflix or any OTT is okay?
Any OTT.
I would
Okay.
say Criminal Justice.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Your go-to comfort food?
Would be a pizza.
Okay. Uh, favorite place from Bangalore?
Right now, Rameshwaram Cafe.
Okay.
Phenomenal food.
And your recommendations to visit apna in Chennai for food and for other things.
So there's, I mean, there are, it's very, very easy to find incredibly good food. There's a place called Basque, probably my current favorite. Um,
Mm.
there's another one which is Eating Circles, if you fancy South Indian food. Uh, probably the two best that I can think of off the top of my head right now.
Okay.
Mhm.
Tea or coffee?
Coffee, black, no sugar. Absolutely. Exactly what I have right here.
Good.
Mhm.
Okay. Best piece of advice ever received?
The best piece of advice is always to tailor make what you listen to. Um, Anyone giving you advice has not lived the perspective of what you've lived to get until there. So evaluate what you listen to, take what you think fits into your requirement. I think that's something which was both a life learning and someone has said this earlier.
Wow, beautiful. So you did beautifully, and you'll get your Christmas gift.
Thank you so
Uh,
much.
so friends, it was a lovely conversation. Karthik shared his journey, how uh, being in the corporate startup advisory, transitioning, being in the law firm and co-founding a law firm, tips on how for team building, skill sets, culture, learning and development, so many things, his personal interest and his travel journey. So legal professionals from wants to venture from being part of a law firm to starting their own law firm. This is the episode to watch out. There are many tips here shared like how to build the law firm practice. Many tips has been shared. So watch this episode. Subscribe to the Coffee Corner Show. There are over 300 plus episodes which we have built in the 4 year journey with different subject experts and topics. And if you want to be featured like with Karthik as a guest speaker, visit our website or we'll on LinkedIn. We are connected. We'll Our team will connect with you, invite you to have coffee conversation or a cup of coffee and share your journey, professional, personal, and we welcome you to be a part of the coffee tribe. Thank you.